Said your
What did you
deck.
say?
Said your deck.
Yeah.
I beat him in the Swiss.
Yeah, I made his 75.
Okay.
The sideboard guide.
Okay.
What do you mean?
That deck's been out for a while.
I didn't say that it hasn't been, but this is my version of it. You can't take that away from me. I don't know why you would even want to.
Rudy, you get so little, I wouldn't take anything away from you.
You try to take this away? What do you mean?
That's the joke.
Oh, I thought that was a joke.
What was a joke?
Gamsu got traded to Shanghai Dragons.
Well, you get traded to Shanghai, and they still not won a
Yeah.
match.
No, they ended their season without any match wins.
I don't think they won anything in like the prelims or anything this year too, where they did like fun matches against people. I'm not sure though.
Oh, I didn't watch it.
I remember. Well, I didn't watch it, but I remember them saying something about it. They were like, if they win this, it'll be the first match win for the organization. Like, because they didn't win any last year either. Like, I think they may have done some prelims or some scrims or something, and they also didn't win those. So I'm not sure. Got a little bit of a beard going.
Who, me?
No, me.
Oh.
I haven't shaved
Well,
this week.
I can't see you because your camera's not on for me. So I can't see you at all.
Well, you could look at the stream. The ghost of Bradley Carpenter. Yeah, that was hilarious.
Because they just saw him walking by.
Yeah, he just like walked by. Yeah. What's up, Mikey? Got to see some Mikey this weekend. It was fun. He did really well in the classic.
I heard you browned him at the challenge.
Oh, it was bad. He was mono red, and like I just like played a spell every turn, and every spell was the worst possible for him at that mana curve.
Get wrecked.
Yeah, I just played like what's the black white creature? Orzhov, Basilica Bellhunt. I played Basilica Bellhunt on 4, Lyra on 5, Basilica Bellhunt on 6.
Yeah, I think what's it called? I think.
Hey, Brad, you might have to redo. Hold on, it's running another health check. You could not record for a minute.
Yeah, you're failed right now. Oh no.
Yeah, your health check's failed again. Redo your thing on Syncaster, Brad. Also, you might want to cut and copy Rudy on there. Yep. Yeah, he thought Mono Red was great in Best of One. It's funny, it is, and that's why Esper Hero is good in Best of One, because it's good against Mono Red and good against Reclamation.
You're still failed. You're unable to record, Bradley.
Yeah, unless you get back in, yeah.
Oh, whoops. Make this away for him.
Mm-hmm.
Health check. Perfect.
You could just like cut and copy. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, health check passed. Nice. All right, we can do this. Can I learn how to be good here? Feels good, man. Sure. I mean, we're gonna talk about standard and stuff this week.
Oh, yeah, you can see everything. Perfect. All right, we're good to go then. All right, we can. Can I learn how to be good here? No, you can't.
I learned nothing from my log.
Sorry. All right.
My hair's terrible.
I am ready whenever you guys are.
We're good to go. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm here. Chat and people.
Thanks, Brad. We were waiting for you.
I knew you were. I made coffee. We're live, right? So I can't say like butts.
Yeah, I would appreciate it if you did not speak of the butts.
All right,
So I can't say butts.
Let's do
I
this.
Can't say. That's all I got. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Grinding Cast.
Shut the fuck up for 2 seconds. What? Hey, guess who's a substitute main tank for Gladiators what's the team? They're not their main team, but they're like sub team. They're contenders team.
Gladiators.
What?
XQC.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, he's playing on Gladiator Legions, or the Sentinels, which is the Gladiators contenders team.
Okay.
That's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. I'm glad that he's back in the league and get another chance.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, did he get kicked out for cheating or something?
No, he got kicked out because he was kind of toxic,
He's an idiot.
and his followers are kind of toxic.
They're
And
idiots.
So as a business, they said, since you and your fans are toxic, we cannot allow that, which I basically assume is how the phone call with Jeff Hoagland went. Is somewhere along those lines.
All right, you guys ready?
I am ready to
I was born
start.
ready.
Let's do
Were
it.
you? All right.
Who is doing
the?
the intro?
You are Bradley.
Am I? All right, I'm in.
Yeah, you're in. All right.
He's got energy
we're gonna
today. I
start-
like it.
We're gonna start the recording in 5, 4, 3.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Grinders Cast MTG. I am Brad Carpenter. I am joined by the Tannen Grace and Rudy Brixa. Rudy Brixa is with us.
Wow, thank you.
How are
Did
you
know
guys doing?
We're doing great. This is our 68th episode. That means next week is our meme episode, which means we can't actually talk about Magic next week at all. We have to just meme and joke the entire time.
It's gonna be
I
a
think
nice
that's how the
episode.
internet works. Yeah, it's gonna be nice. Is that what you said?
It's gonna be a really nice episode.
Oh yeah, that's great. I'm doing okay. I'm really worn out. I got a new job and I started serving, and I've spent so much of my time kind of sitting down that now that I'm up and I'm moving around a lot, that it's just actually like devastating on my knees.
Mm-hmm.
It's just actually like so bad.
Get those support things in your shoes. It helps out a
Yeah,
little
I
bit.
have those. I
Okay.
have those. I'm concerned that I might have to start wearing like a knee brace or something.
Or like a back thing. Yeah, I've
Wow.
seen some people do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I am
Old age is
also
rough.
it really is. I am also exhausted myself. We got in pretty late Monday night. I think we got back at like 1:30 a.m. or whatever, something like that. I wish it was later, obviously, but we got back pretty late. I didn't get to bed until like 2:30 after getting home, getting Basoko back to his house. Job rode back with us. Jonathan Job rode back with us from Dallas because he's like staying in Baton Rouge this week before he goes to Memphis. He's in the other room actually, and I had to wake up really early Monday morning because my dog wanted to play, and then I didn't sleep much last night. My wife is really sick, and so she was up all night. So I was up all night taking care of her. So I'm in that weird medium. You guys get that weird medium like when you're really tired, but like you're just like actually wired. Like you're like hyper or adrenaline or something. I don't know. Like maybe it's
It's almost like you've reached a point beyond
yeah,
being tired and
Exactly.
like sleepy that like you could go forever.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm at that point, like my eyes physically hurt, from like just being open for so long. And like just one thing, I got a nap in today, and I don't know if you guys know this, I hate naps.
Really? That's
Yeah.
kind of weird. I would
Yeah,
assume that
naps are
at
great.
I would assume at your age, especially, that like naps
Well-
would be something that you would do.
Yeah, right? Like it makes sense. Like I'm an old man, I need my nap or whatever, right? But no, it's just like I don't like naps because like they split your day up. You know what I mean? Because like it just feels weird. Like I wake up, I'm more groggy than before because my body wants to sleep more. I'm disoriented. Like I have like no idea where or when it is for a minute, and then it takes me a while to get awake. Like I'll just sit there for like 10 minutes and I'm like, I don't want to move. I don't want to get out of bed. People are like, I can't power nap. People are like, yeah, give me 15 minutes. And then I'm like, good to go for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean that just means that you're sleeping too long, and you're sleeping long enough that you hit your REM cycle. and
Exactly.
you wake up when you're in the middle of it. Yeah, it's just awful for you.
I think I get into REM very fast, apparently. Like,
Yeah, that might be it too. I'm sure there's some balance. I have no idea what
Yeah.
it is. I'm not a doctor.
I'm not a sleep doctor or sleep scientist.
Yeah, I read some things once. I went to school for psychology, so I understand like some things, but yeah, I wouldn't begin to give medical advice on this show. So
You-
please don't.
you
Please
just-
don't go back and say that motherfucker told me about REM sleep.
Wow.
So you just made me think about something. You know what some of my favorite Twitter things of all time are? It's whenever someone like calls out someone else on Twitter or like tries to say that like their opinion doesn't matter, and then they're just like an actual expert on the thing, and the person just doesn't know, and you're like, well, actually, that happened the other day. My wife was like, got involved in some message thing on like Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and and this guy is just like, he like mansplains it to her, and then he's like, when I read some things somewhere, blah blah blah, like this, like I don't remember the exact argument, but he said something along the lines of like, your opinion doesn't matter because like I know what I'm talking about. And my wife's like, actually, I'm getting my doctorate in this right now, so if there's something that I haven't read that you'd like to associate with this or like point me towards, I'd be happy to read it, but just so you know, I have 3 degrees in this field. And I was just like, you know what I mean? It's just like, we probably need to get the body bag, get the coroner set up because someone just got killed. Like it was really bad.
Yeah.
And those are just my favorite burns. And it was like really funny watching my wife, who's like the nicest person on earth, like doesn't have a mean bone in her body, just like destroy this human being. It was just so funny. But anyway,
that's actually great.
Rudy, how was your weekend? Because Brad and I were at the Open, so we didn't get to see you.
I worked.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, did you do anything fun? Did you get to watch the Open at all? Like, there was
Do you want to know what I found out you top 8'd, Tannen?
Today?
Like Monday midday.
You're like, oh, you did well. Oh, yeah, you did already.
I don't even know if you realized, but one of the first things I said was, oh, Hawkins top 8'd.
Yeah.
Because I actually had no idea who top 8'd at all. I've just been I've just been like so disassociated with like everything, and that's just been my last few weeks. I've just been working like so much that I've had no time for anything else. That I just stopped paying attention to Magic.
We had a possibility for one of the most stacked top 8s in an Open of all time, if not the most stacked top 8, just like name recognition wise. So like myself, Dylan Donegan, Jody Keith, Hobbs made his like second finals in a row of a standard Open, Jonathan Hobbs, and then Hawkins all made top 8. And then we almost had a win in between Calcano and Tom Ross, but they ended up playing for 9th. And then Drake Sasser almost made it in too. So you almost had literally like pure SCG grinder, like big name, like pros or whatever as like your entire top 8. Too. And yeah, Jonathan Job lost his win in into top 8 as well. And not taking anything away from the guys that did make top 8 that weren't, say, like household names, because I played against pretty much every person in the top 8 and they were all really good. Like they all played really well, or like I watched a match or two, Getting to draw with Dylan Donegan in the top 8 was like actually super happy, and I mean like just a super happy moment for me and pretty awesome, because I don't know if you know this, I love that guy, and if I wasn't going to win the tournament, I was hoping he did, because it's like the 1 year anniversary of the last time that he and I both saw Corey alive, and like he really wanted to win it for Corey this weekend, and which would have been like a really cool story. Drake Sasser winning would have been a really cool story as well, even if he top 8'd. I don't know if you heard what happened to him, or did you hear about what happened to him this weekend?
Yes. So Drake let somebody else handle what flights they were going to go on.
Learn from this at home, kids.
And they got to their flight in
3 hours away.
Their layover.
Yeah, 3 hours away in Atlanta. Yeah.
Right. Which is the opposite direction of where they're actually living in. So they traveled east, got there, and then found out that their flight to Dallas was the next day at night. So their only way to do it was to get in a car and drive. And they all showed up, I think, like a couple hours before round 1 started.
They showed up at 9 a.m. because they left at 9 p.m. and it's about a 12-hour drive, and they just booked it. And so they got there around 9 a.m. and they had to play at 10. I ended up playing one of the people from the car, and I felt terrible for them. Like, you could tell they were just exhausted, And Drake almost ran the table day 1. He was 8-0. He was playing for 9-0 into the last round. And that's just an insane story. And like we were talking about it the whole day too. Like I said it before it even started, I was like, you're going to win this tournament and they're going to talk about this one for months. Because you're going to literally fall asleep in the winner's interview.
That would be great.
All right, but before we get into a little bit more of what happened in that tournament, Brad, I know that you and a bunch of your friends, all pretty big named players, all played the same 75, right? Or near the same 75. And
I don't know what you're talking about. None of us actually showed up. Andrew doesn't make mistakes.
Look, it's cool. This is something people at home can learn from. Y'all did not do well, and that's fine. I mean, we've multiple times all been a part of like a team deck where like you just no one did well. Like you just like.
Talking about.
All right, come on, Brad.
It's actually not okay. Being honest, that's just not okay.
Yours. I won't lie slander my pal like that.
I expected better out of the Jessups and Franklin. Brad,
It's about on
it's
par.
Understandable.
Yeah, it's about on par.
Yeah, it's understandable. He has like a good event, then a bad 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 event, and then he teams
Wow.
with the Jessups and they
Wow.
carry him.
Yeah.
So
This
that's
is-
just
this is all slander.
That's just the way it works. But I am a little surprised because it looked like for a while like Frank Scarron and Danny and Andrew were all doing reasonably well in the first few rounds, and then
Right.
everything kind of fell apart. Towards the end. And I'm not sure when we're going to get into it. Hopefully soon. If you look at all the decks that did well, I think it makes a lot of sense when you start looking at what was going well versus what, the 75 that Andrew built and everyone played.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I do like their deck versus mine. For those of you who don't know what I'm alluding to, I top 8 of the tournament playing mono blue. Drake's is like probably one of my nightmare matchups. Like, I just don't feel like if they interact at all in the first couple turns into a Drake, I feel like I'm practically drawing dead in that matchup. And it just feels really, really bad. So I was hoping to avoid it the entire tournament, and I did, thank God. And I just played against the decks that I was expecting to play against. Like, I really wanted to play against Reclamation decks, Esper, just decks that aren't interacting in the first 2 turns. Like, I want my opponents to put lands into play tapped. You know what I mean? Like, either Gates, actual tap lands like, Breeding Pool, stuff like that. And that way I get to play a 1/1 for 1, a 2/2 for 2, and then just hold up counter spells and flash threats for the rest of the game. And it worked. It worked all day long. I played against a couple other creature decks, which I'm not the favorite in those matchups, but I won enough of them to get myself in the top 8. And I'm a big fan of doing that in tournaments. Just like playing a deck where it's like if your matchups go right, like if you get this portion of the field, which I believed would be the bigger representation, and it was, of this tournament, that you'll do well. And we all kind of heard that this was like the talk of the town coming in this tournament, so it was no secret to play mono blue this weekend, but I really do believe that it was the best deck to play this weekend. Did any one of you disagree with that?
No. I mean, obviously, I wish I had played mono blue, but I thought there would be more mono blue and more red this weekend and less Esper, but that just...
There was so
not
much
the
Esper.
case. There was so much. I think I played it 3 times.
Yeah.
Andrew played it 5. Everybody else played it once or twice. Like
Yeah.
that matchup is so hard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't like being on the Drake side of Esper if the game goes long. Like, I feel like if they flip it as Kanta, you're just a huge dog in the game.
Teferi is also a big pain.
Yeah, like, you don't have maximized velocity, so you can't, like, attack into Teferi if you don't have something set up already. So
Also,
that's
Arclight too, like that whole package is very good against the control decks.
Agreed.
When you're kind of eschewing that for these Terramander, and it's just kind of hard to leverage these threats against Esper when they just have so many good cards, to kind of like push through.
Also,
absolutely.
I don't know if you guys have been destroyed by Thought Erasure, but fuck that card.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I got Thought Erasure a few times this week, and I was pretty lucky that one of my most important cards costs 1, and so I can get it in sometimes underneath Thought Erasure. And like that's a good spot to be in the standard format right now. There's a lot of decks playing Thought Erasure, and leaning on that being their most important card. And if you're on the play and you get to go 1-drop into suited up with the enchantment here and attack, start drawing extra cards, like they can Thought Erasure you all they want. They're dead. Like they're just gonna die now. So.
I think this is like one of those things too. Is just like mono blue, what obviously like it's a deck that people are talking about, but it's always felt like it's one of those underpowered decks because obviously when you are honestly going, I'm gonna register Mistcloak Terrell.
Oh yeah, that card's terrible.
Yeah. I just nothing that you're gonna do at that point just feels good because that card just you have so many weak and underpowered cards, but people kind of don't respect tempo. And when we're playing this format the way that it's developed, and let's take a look. If you're taking a look at a lot of these decks, you're seeing obviously Esper Control, Simic Nexus, but also like these Sultai mid-range decks. Are everywhere. Esper Controls everywhere. All these 3-color slow come into play tapped land decks. Tempo decks end up being really good. So mono blue is just ended up being one of those decks where tempo is well positioned. It's going to be one of the best tempo decks.
You're 100% right. I felt like in like most of my matches, if I could get a couple creatures in play and just counterspell one of the spells that mattered, right? Like the Wrath effect or like, their big card advantage engine or something that's going to block my creatures, that ended up being like all that mattered. Multiple times in the tournament, I remember I would have hands with like 5 spells, 2 lands in them. I could cast every spell in my hand and I would just mulligan it. You know what I mean? Like the deck mulliganed really well. If you understand how to play tempo decks, that deck was just great in these spots. And Dan Jessup's in our chat right now, and he's talking about their choice to play Drakes, and he's saying the IRL meta was behind at this event, causing us to do poorly. And I think that's the thing that can happen, right? Is like you can kind of get too far ahead. You know, if you're playing online a lot, because like, what's the thing that online always feels a week or two ahead, Brad? I know you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah, at this point, I'd say it's like 4 or 5 days ahead at most.
Yeah, and so like I just, you know, I went through the whole week prepared to play Mono Blue, and then I got kind of cold feet in the last 2 days, but that's a usual thing for me, and I kind of went back and forth to a few other decks, and then like literal 1 a.m. went to like it was like I'll probably play Mono Blue. Woke up, sleeved up both decks, brought them to the tournament, and then registered Mono Blue, and you know the rest is history. I lost round 1. The first round I played, wanted to quit. I didn't even want to be there. I don't like the standard format. I think it's great. I don't know where I fit is the problem that I have. And so like, it makes me kind of like, I don't think it's bad. I think it's great. I think it's one of the best standard formats that we've had in a while, if not the best in a while.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I think the standard format is great. I'd love to hear why you don't think it is.
All right, so here's why I don't like this standard format. I think there are far too many decks. It feels more like Modern, where there's a bunch of stuff that's playable, and there's a lot of polarizing matchups, and then you can't beat everything, and that's really frustrating. Whereas I felt like last format, before we got the new set or whatever, just felt insane. Like I love that format. There was like 4 or 5 decks. They were all awesome. There was a lot of play to them, and your sideboard was super important. Here, it feels like you just like don't have enough stuff, and sometimes you just get fucked. And there's like a lot of situations and games where it just feels like there's nothing you can do. Like you'll play a game out, and it'll be like small advantages here and there, and then your opponent will just cast a card that nullifies everything you've done the entire
I do
game.
agree there.
And nothing you did mattered, and you know you couldn't play better. Like you just die, and I dislike that.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like I think that's right, and that's something that can, you know, it definitely hurts some people at certain levels, right? Like when I think of like the Jessup brothers or people like you who like play formats a ton, really get your finger to the pulse of the metagame and try to like metagame correctly for a tournament. This can hurt you. The fact that there's just 17 playable decks, and like you said, things can happen. Like you can play this game perfectly, and then they just top deck a Niv Mizzet, and you're like, well, literally nothing I do matters now, and stuff like that. And Rudy, to like one of your earlier points, like the blue deck, yeah, it does feel like really underpowered, but I think a tempo deck is in a really good spot in this metagame right now with like everything, you know, these decks not doing anything important until turn 3 or 4. But I think what happened is with Ravnica Allegiance coming out, I think adding Pteramander to the deck actually like upped the power level of the deck a ton, while still just adding a 1/1 flyer for 1, which I think was a big deal.
So I'm kind of on the other side. I get that you guys don't like the format. I don't want to you know, argue how you feel. That's not what I'm going to argue here.
No, I think the format's great. I just didn't know where I fit.
I think the format is actually really good. And you know, it's like kind of weird. I think a lot of what's going on in Standard is there are a lot of different tools available, and there are a lot of powerful cards. So we're in this spot where people are still trying to figure out what decks, you know, we need to be playing, what decks are going to be good, what decks you want to be playing here. And so that leads you to a spot where you're going to see a lot of, you know, different decks. You know, you see a lot of people trying a lot of different things there. And I think that, you know, obviously makes it a lot harder to gauge the meta, certainly. And I think instead of looking in, and this is like, I think this might be like kind of a relic from past Standard formats where we've been in this spot where we look and we go, okay, well, this red black deck, aggro deck, is doing really well. I need to be able to beat this deck because there's only 4 or 5 decks. Instead, the trends we need to be following are what kinds of decks are doing well. Instead.
That's a good point.
I think that's a really big change that I think a lot of people really need to make in their meta predictions. Because when you're going, I need to exploit Standard. How do I exploit Standard? You can't exploit Standard by going, I'm just going to beat Mono Blue. I'm just coming to beat Esper Control. Because then you're going to get bodied by the Esper midrange deck. Maybe the Jund Death Whirler deck just, you know, absolutely slaughters you because you were so focused on 2 very specific strategies that you're not really going about the big picture. And that's why the Mono Blue deck is so good. at this point in time. And you know what's going to happen in 2 weeks? The deck's going to be probably unplayable.
Agreed.
Tempo is not going to be a thing that you're going to be able to do anymore. People are going to be able to take their time, move a little slow, pick off your creatures, have like these important aspects. So it's really more important to see where the meta is going. And since the meta is, going to adapt, start moving towards trying to beat these creature decks, let's just take a look. If you're looking at, what did well, Mono Blue aggro, Azorius aggro, Rakdos aggro, Drakes, Sultai, all of these are very creature heavy decks.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to follow this trend. All right, well, these are all the creature decks. How do I beat all these creature decks? All right, now we're starting to move back towards Reclamation Nexus. How do I move towards that? And I think that's your best way. If you're trying to exploit standard, you want to try and get ahead of the curve. That's literally the best way you're going to do it. And right now, there's a lot of creature decks.
Yeah, let's talk about this for a second. Somebody was asking me today, they're like, what's the best way to beat Mono Blue? Because they expect Mono Blue to show up a lot this weekend. And the Magic Fest Memphis. I almost called it GP Memphis, but Magic Fest Memphis. And I do expect it to be a popular deck. I mean, it did just win the tournament. There was 2 copies in the top 8. And I think pretty much every podcast and website talked about it this week. Like Brad Nelson wrote an article saying it was the best choice. The GAM podcast talked about, they devoted an entire episode to everything Mono Blue. And so I was talking to my friend. I'm like, there are some nightmare cards I don't want to play against. Like, I don't want to play against Niv Mizzet. I don't want to play against, Crawl Harpooner? The card, the 2 dropping green. That card single-handedly beats my entire deck. Like, if you resolve that card, I'm probably just dead, from the Mono Blue side. So, there's some interesting things you can change. Cheaper interaction is good. Like, if you're playing any of the Sultai black-green decks, like, you should be taking out your Vivian Reeds, which feels weird, right? Like, taking out a card that kills flyers against the Mono Blue Fire deck. But, like, you need to be faster. And so it's like Rudy was mentioning, like, the way the metagame is shifting is you have these creature decks, and they're not the traditional creature decks. Like, they are getting setups on turns as early as turns 2 and 3 where you are now dead if you don't do something, if you don't interact very quickly. And another thing that kind of came into making Mono Blue really good for this weekend is who was playing Shock? Besides Brad and his friends, like, nobody in the room registered Shock. That card is hard for my deck to beat and deal with. That is a card that can actually cause problems, and just nobody has Shocks and Shivan Fires. Like Jonathan Job did well playing both of them in his Teamer Drakes deck. By the way, we can talk about that deck for a second if you want. Jonathan Job had a pretty sweet deck. He took the Drakes deck and actually fixed one of the problems I talked about. Sometimes when you have to go long with decks, like, you don't have enough going on, and he could just talk deck a Hydroid Krasis and just filter 1 million mana into it and be like, I don't care what you do anymore. I'm going to draw 5 cards this turn. And make a big, huge flyer there. And he gets to interact on an earlier access against the aggro decks, playing Shock and Shivan Fire, while still playing a good threat base in the Drake cards. And then he still has access to, and like Niv Mizzet, and then he still has access to blue, so he can still play Negates and Disdainful Strokes for, like, the longer matchups, or, like, the control matchups, and have some card advantage there. So that deck might be, like, well-positioned next week. That might be a thing you might need to look into.
You know what deck I actually think is going to be really well positioned?
What's that?
I think it's I think the Jund Deathwhirler deck that Brad would spend a lot of time working on, when we were testing for week 1 standard, something that he talked about a little bit. I think that deck actually might be, pretty well positioned. We're moving into, like, this very creature based, format, and this deck just has a ton of removal. A ton of, like, really good hard hitting creatures. All the creatures kind of make an impact on the board. You have the combo of Chain Whirler plus Status Statue to clean up anything. And Chain Whirler is still good on its own. Statue is still kind of good on its own. The fact that Statue can destroy an artifact or an enchantment means you can get Wilderness Reclamation, which is actually just really important and vital, in game 1s when you have a lot of weak cards. And then post board, you get Cinder Vines and Duress.
I don't hate it.
Fire. I think if we're looking at this trend where people are playing a bunch of creature decks, then I think the Jund Deathwhirler deck is going to be a pretty good spot to be in, at least for now.
So it's funny. I kind of find myself trying to figure it out in that deck if Status Statue should be in the main or in the sideboard, because there's a chance that the other split card might be better for game 1. Carnage Carnival or Carnival Carnage or whatever it is, the one that deals 1 to a creature, 1 to them.
Yes, that card is great.
Yeah, because it interacts early enough against Mono Blue and Mono White, and then if you do get the Nightmare matchup game 1, because, like, let's be real, that deck is pretty far behind, like, the really devoted Wilderness Reclamation decks, ones that just have, like, no creatures.
All of those decks will just beat the ever living crap out of it. That was the problem I had with it week 1.
And so if you play this card, it gives you 3 or 4 copies of just make them discard 2 cards. And like you could maybe get lucky there. You could maybe run into a win if you have some other stuff. Like I'm a big fan of the card Angrath. If you start playing 1 or 2 of those main, because it's still good against Hydroid Krasis and some of the cards out of the blue deck. It's at least serviceable. So there's some stuff you can do there. Brad, where do you see this format going in the next week? Like if you were playing at Magic Fest Memphis this weekend, like what would you be looking into doing?
I don't actually know. The Drake stack might actually be really good after Mono Blue won.
I don't think you're wrong. Like I really don't.
Yeah, that's another
because
reason.
It should push Esper out or away a little bit and maybe get people to stop with the Nexus decks. Honestly, I think like Sultai or Nexus decks are probably where you want to be.
So I was thinking about this. I'm going to interrupt for like 2 seconds. Do you think the Sultai decks and the Esper decks should start playing Ritual of Soot? I think it's better. I think it's better than a lot of the removal spells they're using that are targeted against these decks.
I'm not sure. I'm sure there's like
it's a little expensive.
Yeah, they have so many cards. Like I'm sure there's a configuration that the deck can have that will make it be able to beat whatever you expect. Especially a deck like Sultai. It at least won't get destroyed by anything, which is a really nice quality about it. It's pretty similar to the green-black deck from last season. Like nothing really beat the crap out of green-black except for like Phoenix.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty reasonable. I mean, always Sultai is going to be good. I mean, that's the one deck that has been pretty consistent.
It's the Jund of the format.
Yeah. You're never gonna. It doesn't feel like you're registering this deck and you're going to do things that are a lot more powerful than everybody else, but you're doing things that are super consistent, which I think is super important. The one thing that I'm not sold on is I think this maybe might fluctuate, kind of from week to week, is whether the Wild Growth Explore package is necessary. Martin Juza tweeted out a Sultai mid-range deck that just had like Thief of Sanities and more removal instead of it's more like
that looks sweet.
Yeah, Jim Davis almost played it. Yeah, Jim Davis almost played it this week. He was messing around with it, like he couldn't get it to where he wanted it exactly. Like he had Thought Erasure main, he had like Thief of Sanity main. He's like, you have to change the mana base up a ton. I think the bad part is I think you're still weak to the mono blue deck, even with that configuration, even though those cards do interact better. Because like I can just ignore Jaylight Ranger, I can just ignore Merfolk Branchwalker, I can't ignore Thief of Sanity, kind of thing. I'm saying me from the mono blue side because like that's what I played this weekend, kind of thing. So
I mean, maybe you can like try and clean that up in your sideboard too. Like there are a lot of different options, for specific. I mean, I know a lot of people might not remember this, but Deadweight is still in the format.
Yeah.
That's still a card that is great in your sideboard because it's going to be very flexible against a lot of different decks, and especially these smaller creature decks like white aggro or even red too. Like if people are playing red still, like Deadweight is going to be a very flexible card against all these creature decks. Also going to be pretty good against another deck that I think might be good, and that's potentially the Esper midrange deck that has a lot of cards that are very weak to Deadweight. And if they're playing Bell Haunts, you're also playing, something similar, and you're like Deadweight your Bell Haunt, Deadweight your Thief of Sanity, Deadweight your Hero. Like that's all like pretty good. I mean, still, for the most part though, I mean, we know some of the decks are going to be good. The decks right now that are risen to the cream of the crop, the best decks are probably going to be like Esper Control, Mono Blue Aggro, Azorius Aggro, Sultai Midrange, and like Nexus of Gates. Those are probably like the best 5 decks right now.
100% agree. I do think that if you expect a format this weekend where it's just creature decks and reclamation decks, and you think that like maybe Esper takes a seat back, because Esper didn't do like super well overall. I know it got into the finals, but like for how many, it felt like everyone was playing it. For how many people were playing it, it was like a small representation into day 2. If you don't expect that matchup to be that bad, or you can make it to where it's good in games 2 and 3, I actually think Esper midrange isn't the worst choice, because if you're playing against a bunch of creature decks and reclamation decks, that deck's in a decent spot. It's got like robust creatures to win that matchup. Lyra single-handedly beats mono blue by itself. Having Thought Erasure main, Thief of Sanity main, you can kind of steal matches away from decks like Esper or Wilderness Reclamation. And then you can kind of change into this deck out of your sideboard where you have a couple counter spells, and you're just in a really good spot. Your creatures are all really, really efficient and good. You have to find a way to make the deck less mopey. If you don't do something on 2, you're going to die, and there's not a lot that deck does on 2. It plays a hero or it plays a discovery. That's pretty much it.
Thought Erasure, I thought too.
Oh, that's I'm sorry, and Thought Eraser. Yeah.
Thought Erasure, but actually,
Yeah.
I think renowned grinder VTCLA actually kind of figured out how to make it better. He's been playing Lazov, the Multifarious.
I've played with that card.
Actually, it's like a sweet 2-drop.
I've played with it. I've never been super impressed, but like I probably haven't played with it in this build. The body's usually like not super relevant, though surveilling on turn 2 is pretty good in certain matchups because like you know what you need out of your deck.
Oh yeah, also just like having like Hero Precinct 1 copies 5 and 6 or Thief of
True.
Sanity, copies 5
True.
and 6 is kind of nice. Or I mean, he's playing Doom Whisperer.
Yeah.
That's also not a card that I hate copying. There's like a lot of different things that you can do that
So-
seem okay.
I will say that the version that I was going to play this weekend, I had Lazovs and Doom Whisperers somewhere in the 75. I was going to play them. I was thinking about playing like some main, some sideboard so I could, kind of transfer in the way I needed to. And if you're playing those cards along with Thought Erasure, a card that you can play in your sideboard for either the grindy matchups or the control matchups, or I even like this against Reclamation quite a bit, is Disinformation Campaign. And that card can actually go real long and real powerful against those decks because they just need all their cards. And then if you have something like Lazov and Doom Whisperer added into your deck, you're up with like 10 cards that surveil, plus Doom Whisperer plus Disinformation Campaign is quite the combo, by the way. Like, it is if you ever assemble that and you're not dead, they are dead. Like, they are not winning the game from this point. And you get a lot of life buffer in that deck. You get a lot of like things that gain life in that deck, so you get to kind of like aggressively surveil with Doom Whisperer and just like look for your cards that are only good in this matchup. You know what I mean? You get to kind of like get rid of the cards that are bad. Though getting to that point where you can get a Doom Whisperer in play is kind of hard sometimes to get certain decks if you're not interacting at all. Because like you said earlier about certain matchups against Wilderness Reclamation, they're just going to beat the tar out of you if you're not doing something. So it's like you said, Brad. This format is all over the place, and some things you do just don't matter. Like you could have the best curve ever out of Esper Hero, but if you're not interacting with a Wilderness deck, they might just kill you anyway. Kind of thing. So I don't know, man. It's pretty interesting, and I think you can build your decks and play your decks with red not in mind, because that deck it doesn't exist anymore. It had 0 copies into day 2 at the SCG. Wow. 0 copies. That's right. You heard me.
That's insane.
I'm not saying that I don't think it's good. It just doesn't feel like, I don't know. I think there's some spots where it would be good. Where there are spots where that can happen, but I just think that like a lot of the decks are just either going under it or going over it, and even the matchups where it's supposed to be good, like you still see draws out of like mono white, mono blue that can beat it. Like in playtesting, like I was scared shitless of playing against mono red, but only if they had Steamkin. Like I was still beating Chain Whirlers, I was still beating their other draws. I just couldn't beat a Steamkin because if they get to play 4 spells in a turn, it doesn't matter what you do, like or how good your deck is. Like if they're playing 4 spells a turn, you're just gonna die, kind of thing. So I don't know. Standard seems great. I would love to be able to watch the Grand Prix this weekend because I'm going to be sitting on my couch having a beer, and I would love to be able to watch it and see what everybody's doing in Standard, but I don't get to do that, and that's quite annoying for me. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a little annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, this is like one of the other things is this is something that we've talked about is we felt how important it was for WotC to try and continue coverage, but obviously that's not their goal right now. Money had to come from somewhere. And they just
we're getting something else. They're going to give us weekly Magic from the MPL. Like that's I think it's almost been confirmed. I heard one of the MPL players talking about it. I'm not going to name names in case they weren't supposed to say something, but right. I heard somebody saying that we're going to get like Thursday Night Magic or something. So
yeah, and that's awesome. But like also at the same time, it's really disappointing that I can't watch these major events on the weekend, and I don't want to go out of my way necessarily to go to these Magic Fests just to be involved in them in any way. you know what I mean? Like I just want to be able to sit at home in comfort, and like obviously like right now my life is in turmoil and flux because I just don't have a lot of time to do anything. But the spare time that I do have, I love that I get to watch coverage. It's my way to kind of keep involved, keep interested, keep up to date. Right now I just have to like scour deck lists. And
because like if you play on the SCG Tour, Tour, you have nothing to watch because you're there when the events are going on. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm going to do this weekend when I get really bored? I'm going to watch the damn tournament that I just played.
Yeah, I might join you.
Yeah, I'm going to watch because I want to see because they did some cool stuff this weekend. One of the behind the scenes guys, like one of the producers, got sick, And so Cedric had to kind of like do extra work behind the scenes. So they mix and matched with some of the partners this weekend. Like Ryan Overturf and Patrick Sullivan were in the booth at the same time this weekend. In the booth.
Yeah, I thought I saw that, and I want to go back and watch that. That just sounds amazing.
It's got to be unbelievable. And then, Todd was with Patrick at one point as well, I believe. And that's got to be pretty great because, like, I don't know if you've seen Todd casting lately, but he's had a lot of energy and he's been, like, pretty damn positive during the matches. And then you have the old curmudgeon, Patrick Sullivan sitting next to him. So I think it'd be, like, an interesting little playoff of each other. And so that'd be cool to see. And I want to see these like new pairings and how they work with each other and like the jokes they make, because I feel like everyone has elevated their game at casting at the SCG this year too. Like from Ryan Overturf to Todd Anderson to Patrick Sullivan, all the ones that I heard this weekend, I went back and watched a match or two, and they're funnier, they have more energy. It's great, like new blood. Like bringing Emma, bringing Jerry, bringing Brian Gottlieb in this, like, you know what I mean? Like it adds up. Plus, they're not just working for 10 hours straight anymore. They get a break now.
Yeah, I think that like
I think it helps
really
a lot.
Allows them to give like an extra percentage, like when you're not working just every single round for 12 hours in a day or whatever.
Working infinite amount of time is rough, and this is something that we've also kind of talked about too. Is commentary is real difficult. It's not people want to pretend that it's like kind of easy, and when you're sitting at home and you're watching, and sometimes a commentator might miss something, you're like, oh my god, who put this person in the cat? How did you miss that? It's so easy. But you get in there and there's a lot of information to coverage. There's a lot of information to cover. There's a bunch of different things that you have to keep in mind. You have to be watching everything. You have to be very non-biased when you're doing this too. So there's like a lot of different work that goes into being doing commentary, and people just kind of forget that a lot. It's very easy to pretend that it's not as hard as it is.
So when I was doing it for a job, my average day of commentary, it would only be about 4 hours, but we would have no breaks. Besides, like, we'd have commercials or something, right? And when I'm doing commentary, like when I'm at the desk, because we have like a desk, it looks like a Sports Center thing. When I'd be at the desk, it would be myself and Nathan Zamora, aka That's Admirable. He'd be standing, a foot or two from me, and I'm having a conversation with him, right? And then there's a screen under the desk that shows us the feed of what's going on. In front of us are all the cameras and lights. We had this big crazy setup. It looked like a newsroom, right? And underneath every one of the cameras was a teleprompter and then another screen showing what they're seeing, like what the camera is showing. So I have all that going on. In my ear, I had an earpiece, because we had lapel mics. We didn't have like the headsets. In my ear is an earpiece, because my director, my producer, and anyone else that was working was about 30 feet to my left in a room with a clear window so I can see them, and they're talking to me during the show. So I'm trying to see all of this and take all this information and talk to the person next to me and talk to you at home while this is all going on. Plus there's a live thing going on that I have to talk about, and things are changing, and I'm having to watch this game from two different perspectives because I can see both hands, right? And then I got to talk about the sponsors, and I got to remember my takeaways for commercials. I got to remember what I say when we come back from commercial. I got to remember the things that we've rehearsed in certain spots. You know what I mean? Like there's just, and that's underselling it. And then I have to understand the matchup too, right? Like I need to know what's going on in the games.
That sounds super easy.
Yeah, it is. I have the utmost respect for anyone who puts that headset on. It is an insanely difficult job. It's harder than you can ever imagine. And then you have to not have dead air. Like you have to be entertaining. You have to be energetic.
Right.
You should see these people during the commercial, by the way. They are dead. They are giving you everything they have while the camera's on. And they are just recovering while it's not on. So I got a lot of respect for all those men and women behind the scenes and with the headsets on.
Can we talk about some other terrible WotC decisions, or potentially terribly WotC decisions? I don't want to say it's terrible yet, but I definitely want to talk about this.
Are we talking about London?
We are going to talk about London.
Yeah. Have you heard about this, Bradley?
Loosely.
Okay,
it's like the Pro Tour is.
Yeah, we're going to go through it because Tannen and I had a little bit of a talk while you were taking a shower. And we're both like kind of on the same page where we like kind of have an idea what's going on, but just like every other WotC announcement that we've ever seen, there's no information. There's either no information or there's way too much information and everything gets lost in translation. This is unfortunately the former. We didn't get a lot of information. Here's what we do know. Magic Fest London Mythic Championship London. These happen at the exact same time.
Same weekend.
Now,
Yep.
same weekend. It is now the pre-release for the next set, MTG War.
Wait, what?
So,
That's what it's called.
It's the actual
MTG.
pre-release. Well, it's War for the
It's the-
Spark. So-
War for the Spark. I forgot what the name of it is, but it's MTG War. I know MTG War is the hashtag.
Yeah.
So MTG War, this is going to be the pre-release for the set at the Mythic Championship and the Magic Fest. We know one thing. We know that the GP itself is going to be a limited GP. There's going to be a bunch of different flights, and you have to have a certain. I think you have to go.
You have to go 6-1. It's 7 rounds
6-1,
both days.
yeah.
It's sealed. It's 7 rounds both days, and you have to 6-1 to make day
Right,
2.
and then you make it to day 2.
Oh,
and
no
there's a bunch
buys.
of different flights. Yeah, there's
No
a bunch of
buys.
different flights. Yeah, which is. I think that makes sense. I
It
think
makes
that's
sense,
fair for a pre-release.
But you have to actually
Yeah.
win 6 matches, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
No matter who you
have
are.
to win- Yep, you have to win 6 matches, and then day 2 is going to be different. Day 2. I
Can
think,
you
is-
enter multiple flights?
No.
That's what I'm also not sure about. I would assume the answer is no.
I would assume it's also no, but
Yeah.
in poker you get to do as many times as you want.
Yes,
But like
this is
it's similar
obviously
to the PTQs that they used to run on
Oh, yeah.
day 2 of GPs.
right.
You couldn't re-enter if you had to like 5-0
Maybe.
and you would top 8, but you couldn't re-enter another one if it wasn't
Huh.
filling up.
Hey, maybe like, you know,
Right.
you open your like my sealed deck shit, you like drop, get to the next one that starts in like an hour or two, you know?
Yeah.
Right. So that'll be interesting for sure. So I mean, we'll get more information, I'm sure, going on, but we know that that's going to be a limited GP. Here's what we don't know, and here's what I want to hear from you, Brad, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Pro
See.
Tour? What is the Mythic
Uh,
Championship?
Like, is it limited or is it?
That's what we don't know. That's what
constructed?
we're asking. What
Is
do,
it?
what,
Do we?
what do you think?
Is it guaranteed to be tabletop?
We don't know.
Yeah,
You tell us.
This
This is the point.
Yikes for me,
Is it,
dog.
is it digital? Is it paper? Like,
Yeah, we just have no idea. So I mean, let's theorize for a little bit. We have a little bit of time. Let's theorize for this. You're WotC, right, Brad? You're making the
Yep.
decision. This Grand Prix, this Pro Tour, Magic Fest, Mythic Championship, they're going to be the pre-release for the new set. What is the Mythic Championship format's going to be if you had to choose? Like, what do you? And I want to hear what you would choose, and I want you to hear what you think WotC is going to do.
I would like it to be constructed. I think that would be cool. I think there is the issue of people not having the cards, so you would have to do it on Magic Arena, I'm sure. That's like basically it, right? Like it makes sense if they were like, yo, it's the weekend or it's the week before the set comes out, and that sets the pace for the format, like right off the bat, which is kind of cool. Especially with these good standard formats, they tend to turn naturally. Whereas like old ones became really stagnant pretty quickly once we figured out what the good decks are. But the way WotC is designing sets now, they naturally move the format with like certain powerful cards. Lyra, Carnage Tyrant, stuff like that. Anyway, what they'll probably do is like just have it all limited, and it'll be awful, and it'll be a train wreck.
I think it's going to be all constructed. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
they're either going to, if they do it paper, they'll provide the cards for the people.
That's insane.
Like here's a 4 of the set, or register your deck, we'll give you the new cards or something. Or they just do it on Arena and give them God accounts.
I feel like the Arena God accounts is like what you should do, but I don't know if WotC is capable of doing that. Because then that means they're gonna have to like, is everyone gonna have to bring their computer? Like, is WotC prepared to deal with a large scale online tournament like that? Do we even know how those are run? Are people gonna be challenging each other over and over?
No,
again until they
they're
get
fixing that. They they said that one of the first things they're working on for like one of the next updates is they're gonna have best of 3 challenges.
Okay,
So
well, that's cool.
someone in the chat just said if it's paper it'll be modern. That's not happening ever again, I'm pretty sure. As long as Arena is the forefront of Magic, you're playing standard.
Yes.
Yeah, they're playing some form of standard, and if it's not standard, it'll be whatever the non-rotating Arena format is. It won't be modern.
Yeah, so I'm also unsure. I think I'm maybe leaning a little bit towards where Tannen is with it. That you know they'll have computers available for players with accounts. Obviously, this even though the pre-release is going to be that weekend, we're gonna have the set for at least a week before that.
Like we'll know the whole set is what you're saying.
Right. Well, we'll have the entire set list out, so you'll know everything that's in the set. So people will be able to build new decks, which is actually really exciting. And I also kind of like the idea of offering players the physical cards that they need, which also I think actually that makes a lot of sense that they would do that, right? Because for the last few Pro Tours, you've had to submit your deck list by Wednesday.
Also, like here's the other thing.
So like that kind of like starts to add up, right?
No, it does.
Doing something like that, then maybe that's why.
No, here's the other thing too.
Wait. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So weird question is, if they're supplying you, are they only supplying you with your new cards? Do you have to return those cards? Do we just get free cards? Does that?
I would assume you get them for free
with 4x of everything.
My assumption.
My deck's 340 cards. What's the problem?
No, my assumption is yes, you would have to return things. That's number one. Number two, I would also assume that it would only be the new cards. Because it doesn't make any sense for them to offer you everything. But like offering new cards, I think makes a lot of sense.
I assume they just give you a copy of the new stuff, and you get to keep it. That's what I assume. Here's the other thing that could happen too. Let's say it's standard, and let's say it's the new stuff. Why don't they just what says? Where is it that WotC can't give the cards to the people ahead of time, or like can't give them arena accounts, or that what was the Moto thing that where you used to get the set like a week or two early?
Beta.
Yeah.
Beta.
What if they get arena beta? They just get arena accounts that have all the new stuff, and they can play each other.
They've done that already, right? Where they did like the pre-release arena day.
Yeah, and so like they just give those people accounts, and if they see that account, they just put it on a separate server, which isn't a hard thing to do. And so like the teams can play against each other, the MPL people can play against each other, and then they have the P teams like they got to play with the stuff for like a week. Like they got to figure it out. I don't think they're going to make these people have to just purely theorize and like proxy stuff up.
I think it'll be pure theory, and I think it'll be on Arena. That's the only way this makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It makes stuff cheaper, honestly. They don't have to be there, honestly, but yeah,
I
they
think
do.
the Invitational will be, or the Mythic Invitational will be like, okay, can we do this?
Mm-hmm.
And likely, if the Mythic Invitational is a success and they're able to run it fine, I think they'll be like, all right, we can do this. We can do a large scale.
This is their test.
Tournament.
Yeah. Because this sounds like logistically a nightmare.
Yeah, but if it sucks, they'll abandon it and they'll go back
to
on
paper.
Whatever they said.
Yeah, it'll do paper.
It's paper, and also we're you guys can have 4x of the set. I don't know. It doesn't really cost them anything.
It costs them nothing. It costs them nothing.
Kind of interesting. It is also like, well, the thing is like they also started offering prizes for everyone who qualifies for Mythic Championship as well. So I mean, maybe this is like just the next step. Is just like not only do you get a prize, you also get a 4x of the new set on release weekend only. But like I don't know, that kind of seems like a dagger, right? Because if you like just don't qualify for the release one, you just miss out on a 4x set. You have to spend a bunch of money to travel, and you have to buy new cards.
Yeah.
Maybe,
we do it anyway. Like,
yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to do it anyway, but it certainly feels like something like that would be a kick in the teeth.
Yes.
So I don't know. That is kind of interesting. I think there's a lot of different paths that could be taken here.
Mm-hmm.
Going the digital route, going the paper route, offering cards to players, giving players, a week early access, saying here's the set list 2 weeks before the Pro Tour kind of thing, makes a lot of sense as well. Maybe you want to, I don't know. I also kind of want people to like, explore all the cards and all the new decks too. So maybe you just say the Wednesday before it's due, or the Wednesday 1 week before all your deck lists are due. That's when you have the set. And then
on
you
Arena?
have 1 week to figure it out. Yeah, you have exactly 1 week to build whatever you want to.
Good luck.
I could also see them just like doing the online release like 2 weeks before, or just like full set list is just out like 2 to 3 weeks before the set release, whereas before we usually get it about 2 weeks, I think.
Mm-hmm. So Danny Jessup in the chat coming up clutch again. He said, according to the fact page, it's tabletop and not arena, but he assumes it will be announced at Cleveland because we don't know if that's 100% correct because things have been subject to change for a while, right? Yeah. So
also maybe you want to change things. Maybe like the invitation goes obscenely well, and you're like, you know what? Fuck it, we're all in.
Yeah.
Bring the computers up. Let's go. Let's just do it. It makes viewing great. I'm not one of the things we talked about earlier was, like the Twitch Rivals thing, with Arena. That was kind of interesting, right? That was like kind of interesting, kind of exciting, but like at the same time, like it helped you see a lot of different, matches at the same time. So like that's kind of good.
You can jump around very quickly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Jumping around is like kind of cool, but does not. I don't know. It just also feels kind of weird.
We're getting another one really soon, by the way.
I have a theory. All right.
Okay.
So new they're like it's not tabletop, it's on Arena. We're not paying for airfare, so you don't actually have to go to London. We'll be here in London. You guys can all stream from your apartments.
Yep.
Whereas that's just picture Rich at the booth. He's like, "We're here in London for no reason at all, just to do the championship in London, and we'll be watching a bunch of players all over the world.
Yeah,
tune in."
That legit happened. That legit happens in esports. Like when I did our show,
hope that doesn't happen.
When we did our show for Hearthstone, we were in Frisco, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas, and we had people from all over the United States and all over the world. We had people in the Asian demographic and the European demographic, South and North America, and we had crazy things happen because of timing. Some players had to be up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. We had one player who was playing from somewhere in Europe. I can't remember the exact country, but the power on their block went out. But luckily their phone was fully charged, so they played their match, which was for like thousands of dollars, from their phone during this year. And it was funny too because if you watch that game, you can see like when people are dragging something and they're targeting, and you could see that he was being very, very careful because he's having to do it with his finger instead of a mouse, and like people were more prone to misclick on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
So he's just playing for thousands of dollars to try not to fireball himself in the face.
I'm just imagining like a little bit of water gets on your phone and you just accidentally target the wrong thing. It just costs you thousands of dollars because you just really needed to drink.
What was the game? Was it like Ascension? Is that the game that they all the Magic pros made like a decade ago?
Brian
they're
Kibler, right?
Yeah, they're
really a decade old. Holy.
Well, I don't know. Whatever, maybe 8 years. Their first world champion won on his phone. Like, because like they played worlds from like they played the championship from like wherever. You didn't have to be somewhere like we were talking about. You didn't have to physically be there, and he won on the phone. I think they said that he was even in his car or something like that when he won. Like he might have been going somewhere. Someone was driving somewhere, and he was just playing. I know one of my buddies finished second at a big Hearthstone event. He like lost in the finals or whatever, and he sent me a picture of himself playing, and he was on vacation. He's literally just like on a beach playing in a Hearthstone tournament. Like he's there with like his then girlfriend, his now fiance, and like he's like someone took a picture of him. He's like playing on his phone, and there's like one of those really fruity cocktail looking things next to him, like complete with the umbrella and the gigantic straw coming out of it, and like the piece of fruit garnishing it. Just like you'd see in a movie, and it's just hilarious. So I'm interested to see the logistics of it all. I hope they pull it off. Like we said, the Mythic Championship Invitational thingy. So it's not a Mythic Championship, right? It's just a Mythic Invitational. That seems like it's going to be a big test. If they pull it off, if they do well, I think we'll see some changes in the future. If not, hey, they've already got an existing thing in play that works, right? Plus, I don't think you want to completely abandon paper this fast, right? I mean, they still make a lot of money from people cracking packs, right?
Yeah, but the people who crack packs aren't your like competitive players.
Yeah, but still, like, it still showcases the game, right? And you still want to, like, here's the other thing. You still want to show off paper because how many people do you think play Arena that don't own paper cards? And then, like, they're watching Arena, and they're like, hey, here's the new set. Here's the Mythic Championship. Make sure you watch. Rudy and I talk about this all the time. We play Overwatch. Whenever Overwatch is streaming some big thing, there's a link on the front page when you pull up Overwatch. And I hope to God they do this on Arena. That big box that's right in the middle that says, play whatever this weekend. I hope there's a thing that just clicks it and it brings you to Twitch to watch the Mythic Championship, right? And people are going to see these paper cards, and they're going to see people interacting with each other who have never played paper Magic. Like, they've only played Arena, and they're like, yo, I'm going to go buy some packs. And honestly, I don't think we're too far off of the codes and the packs being more popular soon. There needs to be something soon, a direct correlation, unless they just don't care about paper. If the plan is to phase out paper in the next 5 years, then it doesn't matter. But if you want paper to be a big...
I don't think they want to cancel it out or whatever, but I think we'll scale it back.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
so-
I mean, you have to think like how much product ends up being left over at WotC, right? From like print runs, they probably will stop doing as many print runs just because
Mhm.
it's kind of a waste.
Mhm.
And then just you'll still have access to the cards in real life, but
I think
there
we'll
just
start
won't be as
seeing
many.
like maybe like hybrid stuff. Well, I mean, not like I don't think they're gonna cut paper out. I think paper is like obviously like a very vital and important part of Magic. Like that's what makes Magic Magic.
Mhm.
That's why it kind of separates it from a lot of the other games. But obviously, like moving into a digital field is just the future.
all right. So before we change the subject, though, can we talk about the few little things? I know I'm going to forget some stuff, I'm not covering, but the few little things that are kind of wrong with all this, with the pre-release, because like we started with this conversation being the pre-release in London. So this is yet another decision from WotC that is hurting local game stores. That is hurting your local like LGS. And it just doesn't seem like they care about the little middlemen in this thing, just to use the phrase middleman, And it doesn't look good because pre-releases are some of the most, profit-driven days of the year for stores. It's when they move some of the most product they have. They sell the most sleeves, most deck boxes, most packs. You have your midnight release, then you usually put like 2 on a Saturday and usually like a couple on a Sunday, and people just play them, get stocked up on energy drinks so people can just, jam all the way through the weekend and play a bunch. Now, can you even run one in London in that area? I don't think you can. Like, why wouldn't you just go down the street to the Mythic Championship thing? And like, even if you don't want to play the main event, you'll play in all the other stuff there because like they'll probably have A, better prices, B, better price support, and C, it's like just this big, huge thing, right? Like, why wouldn't you go?
Yeah, that you want to be a part of.
Yeah, you want to be a
Yeah,
part of it. There's going to be 4,000 people there. This thing's going to be huge. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean that's also like a reason to kind of like also stay at your local thing. It's just I don't want to go to.
Is this the first one, by the way? Is this going to be the first Mythic Championship? Like, is this the
No.
one directly after
Cleveland.
the Invitational?
This is
Cleveland is
Oh, is the second one.
technically a Mythic champion.
Right. And so, like, this is going to be big. There's going to be a lot of people there. Also, like, this takes away jobs. Like, right? Like, judges, like, local judges have, like, to go to pre-releases and get a thing. And, like, they may not get a job at the Mythic Championship in London. So, like, there goes one of their weeks of working that they get to do. And, like, they don't get their prize support or they don't get their check that they normally get. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that WotC cares about that stuff.
Of
Like,
course,
they would
that's what I'm
rather see
saying.
that stuff phased out, right? Because it makes it like it doesn't. They're not gaining money off of that, right? It's just making the game slightly more expensive. Like judges, especially, I think, just make events more expensive.
Also, I'm going to keep bringing this up. We keep hearing about Mythic Championships and all these weird, cool, new things they're doing. We still have no idea how to qualify for them. There's still no, replacement for the PTQ circuit that they said there would be. We haven't heard a word about it. There's the ones at GPs. At Magic Fest. I think John Stern picked up one this weekend, so he'll be going to the Mythic Championships. So nice for him. But what about all the middle, low-level grinders that had that dream of playing at a Pro Tour, playing at a Mythic Championship? We're still not hearing anything. And it's getting really late.
Well, I mean, we just had this is the last RPTQ season,
Right.
so they're probably waiting for that to phase out, and then they'll figure something out,
Oh,
or
so
just wait and see if they even care to.
See, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, both of those are not acceptable. Like, you're saying that either A, don't care, or B, haven't figured it out yet. And you would think that, like, they'd have that figured out. Like,
Yeah, I think they're just trying to put together like the top pieces of the like they're trying to build the top half of the puzzle, and they'll figure it out later, right? Like they just want to establish one piece, and then they'll focus on the other pieces.
Mhm.
But like right now, they're like, it's like, hey, what are you doing for the PTQ people? And they're like, shut up, MPL.
Yeah. Oh, have you seen the MPL thing this weekend? Watch the MPL.
Uh,
They just keep having, like, these flashy light things.
Yeah,
And it
and
kind of
you're like,
distracts. Yeah, it'll, like, distract you from the problem, right? Is that what you're trying to
yeah,
say?
exactly. You'll be like, hey, I was wondering, this is the last RPTQ. What's going on next? And they're like, well, have you seen the Mythic Invitational?
Yeah.
You'll be like, well, hey, I just, how do I qualify for like the Mythic
MPL.
Championship? It's
MPL.
like, yeah, you'd be one of these 32 people. How do we get those points? Are you, have you seen the new set coming out? It's coming out. We're doing a Magic Fest. Check it out.
Have you downloaded Arena? Here's a code for Arena. Here's some packs.
There's Arena. Here's the draft set on Arena. Good luck.
Here's the draft set at Arena. Go play. Go play.
Try to be top 10. Don't challenge your friend to best of 3. You can't do that yet.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Other than that, though, honestly, besides that crap, we're starting to see some good movement, right? I'm hoping to see that the NPL stuff and all this works out. Like Rudy was saying it earlier, I think they're going to hit it out the park. They've actually been doing pretty well overall. We all know the problems that have been going on, but honestly, I have high hopes. I hope everything works out. I do love this game, and I think WotC's going to do everything they can to keep making sure everything's great. I think Hasbro's pushing real hard on the esports angle, and they're doing the best they can with what they've got.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was mostly going to say, I feel like anyone who's who wants to qualify for Mythic Championships consistently, maybe make their way into the MPL, or really do something and play a bunch of competitive Magic, right? Like we've been doing, grinding the SCG circuit, grinding the Grand Prix circuit. I think like you just have to accept that like you either blindly grind this year and see what happens, or you just like be patient. Don't just like expect things to happen based on points accrued or something like that, and just wait. And like this is going to be a really weird year, and then if everything goes well, they'll probably have a more solid structure next year, and then that's when you'll have like clear goals and like ways to get in, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like a lot of what decisions are being made make some amount of sense, in terms of business, or like in terms of like how they think things might play out. But I mean, at the very least, at the very minimum, we do know that Wizards at least is willing to listen, even if they do listen late, and they're willing to make the changes that they need to. So I wouldn't go, I don't know, I wouldn't be too focused on this is just exactly what it is and there's nothing else to it. That there will be something more, and it will grow and it will change over time. WotC's never been, perfect at knocking things out of the park the first time around, but as soon as they start, putting some pieces together, and they start, listening and realizing, and they move through all the red tape and all the bureaucratic bullshit, then things, actually start to come together. So I'm sure it will come together at some point, but maybe, we might have to wait 2 years before you're like, oh my God, everything's so good now.
Yeah.
All right, couple more things couple little quick things to cover before we get done with the show today. Brad, did you eat anything amazing in Dallas this weekend? Because I did, and I wanted to talk about it on the show.
I just ate Thai. That was like it. Or
Yeah?
like Thai restaurant.
You didn't get any tacos?
I had Waffle House and
Wow.
oh wait. Oh,
I'm disappointed.
We went to this place called the Rodeo Goat, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, so you actually went there after I told you to?
Oh, did you tell me you go to
Yeah,
Rodeo
yeah.
Goat?
So Friday night when we did the BCW challenge, we got there early, and we asked somebody like, what we should eat, and some guy was like, strong recommend Rodeo Goat. And we're like, okay. So we look at the menu, and it's just like burgers and fries and stuff, right? So like, whatever, we'll go. This guy strong recommended, it's right there. We go. I'm talking 10 out of 10. Like no one had a bite of food left on their plate. Like not a single bite of food. The fries were 10s, the burgers were 10s. Also, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, tons of options for you. The Impossible Burger was on the menu. I don't know if anybody's ever had that before. I had it in Baltimore. It's amazing. It's a meat substitute that looks, tastes, and feels like meat. If that's like what you're looking for. If you're one of the people that's transitioned into something like veganism or vegetarianism, and it was so good. So highly recommend that place. It's a little far away from the site. It's about a 25-minute drive from the site. It's more towards Dallas proper than it is Fort Worth, but easily one of the best burgers I've had in a long time, and everyone loved theirs. So big shout out to that.
Yeah, it was great.
Velvet Taco was still legit as always. I went and had a nice little dinner with some of the people. That was great. All the food was good this weekend, so I'm super excited about the next couple. I've never been to Syracuse before. I know it's going to be cold as shit, so the food better be good. I've never been to Syracuse.
You've never been to Syracuse?
I've been to New York only once in my life.
We
can talk about it. We can talk about it in a couple weeks when we get there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so far away.
Because there's Memphis. There's Memphis this weekend, and I was gonna say, Rudy, I know you have somewhere you really like in Memphis.
Yeah, there is, but there are a couple people, especially in our Discord
that hate on it. Yeah.
She's joined, by the way, that tell me that I'm wrong, but I think they're just stupid.
Rendezvous is fine. Yeah.
I think Rendezvous is great.
Yeah,
I get their lamb, I get their brisket. I get their lamb, and I get their brisket, and they're just out of the world. I just don't know what else you want. I'm sorry that the things that I get are delicious. That must, it just is what it is. But yeah, so I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit. This is going to be a weird spot for us. So next week, you know what event's going on?
Yeah.
So whatever. Like, you know what? And that's it. It just feels like it doesn't really feel like there's anything going on because there's not going to be really coverage. None of us are going to Memphis. We're going to be chilling out. we'll talk about it. I kind of want to do like an episode where
Hold
we
on.
kind of chat.
I already have an idea for the episode, and I don't want to talk about it yet because I want it to be a surprise.
Wait, is it nice?
It is a very nice idea. Yes, yes. I already talked to Basoko about it on the drive up to Dallas, and he thought it was hilarious. So hopefully it'll work. Oh, by the way, we really do need to work on offering the Uber tier for Grinders thing because while no one else won the event out of my car, but my car did pretty damn well this weekend. We were all 8-1 after day one. Jonathan, Joe, Brian Basoko, and myself all were 8-1, and we played 3 completely different decks.
Yeah.
And then Basoko kind of the wheels fall off. He top 32'd. Jonathan Job lost his winning in, but he said it was probably his own fault that he didn't make top 8 in day 2. He said he probably played a little poorly in a spot or two, and then I got lucky and made top 8. So our car did some work this weekend.
There you go. It's close enough,
Yeah, I'll take it. Also,
We'll
this weekend kind of sucked because I had a feeling looking at the bracket and the way it was all going to work out. I was like, whoever wins our match, because my match in the top 8, the first one, it was the Mono Blue Mirror. And I was like, whoever wins this is a favorite to win the tournament, I believe. Because there was one bad matchup for it in the top 8, like an actual bad matchup where you're playing against Jody Keith, playing the Chain the Chain Whirler deck or whatever. And I was like, they just have infinite removal. But I didn't expect him to get out of the first round of the top 8 because his matchup was pretty rough. So.
Right,
Wow.
That's fair. So I guess we'll get into that. We'll have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to do it for episode 68. Tannen, someone wants to find you. Where can they do so?
Well, if you're watching the show, you can look right here below my face. I'm kind of pointing at it. But if you're not, you can find me on Twitter at the Tannen Grace, and you can find me on Twitch at just Tannen Grace. I stream almost every day that I'm not traveling. I haven't yet this week besides this. My wife has been very, very ill, and I've been extremely tired. I do plan on streaming tomorrow and Thursday and Friday and possibly Saturday and Sunday since there's nothing going on, and I plan on streaming a lot. There's a lot of new cool decks that I want to try out. I got some ideas. I'll definitely do some kind of celebration stream at some point for making the top 8 with Mono Blue, and I'm working on doing some giveaways with it. I need to talk to BCW and some other people trying to do some sweet stuff with it. So if you guys see that going on, you should try to get in and get some of the free swag or whatever they may be giving away. So find me on there. And if you need to contact me on Twitter or Facebook or something like that. Brad, where can people find you?
Here in my house.
Where you never leave.
That's not true. I left last night and this weekend and what felt like every other weekend. Anyway,
I know,
you
right?
can find me on twitch.tv/BradBorigimos Enraged. Or you can find me on Twitter at Brad Borigmos. You can also reach me at my business email address. It's thetanninggrace@gmail.com. Yeah.
How often do you get an email at that email address?
I don't know. I don't really check it often enough. I think
God damn
Brian
it.
or whatever messaged me. That was about it.
There's got to be some comedic gold in there. There's probably some email in there that you've missed that's just hilarious. Anyway, all right, Rudy, what about you?
There probably is. There's probably some email that's just like, you know what, I really appreciate this, and just says some other shit, and Brad's just like, whatever, delete.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get any emails. But if you're interested in finding me, you can follow me on Twitter at TheNotoriousBZA. You can read my articles every Monday over at CoolStuffInc.com. I just wrote an article about death and taxes. My article next Monday is going to be about exploiting the standard metagame, and it'll include some of the things that I was talking about today on the show as well. So if you're interested in seeing that information again, or maybe you didn't really pay attention to the first half of the show, or maybe you just tune out whenever I talk, all of that's pretty reasonable.
I know I do.
You go ahead and read that article next week. So you can find me there. You can also feel free to add me on Facebook. If you're interested in supporting the show, listening is the best thing that you can do. And I got to tell you, me, Brad, and Tannen really appreciate it. You can listen to us on SoundCloud. You can follow us on iTunes or Spotify or your favorite podcast listening device. So feel free to add us to your selection there, and you'll get our you'll get our episodes every single week when they come out, usually within a few hours after, because Brent is a great editor.
He's the nut.
He's great.
10 out of 10. 5 out of 7.
5 out of 7.
10 out of 10 would hire again.
10 out of 10 would hire. Okay, that's good. I like the 5 out of 7 because 5 out of 7 is a perfect score, Tannen.
I think I don't understand this meme, but all right, continue.
Wait, really?
Well,
I really don't.
So there's this meme of this.
oh,
guy.
don't, Sony. It's
Just send it to me later. Just send it to me later. Don't explain it to me.
I don't know. I thought I never mind. All right.
Yeah, I don't know how he doesn't know. It probably has to do something with him being old or something.
It's definitely because
Yeah.
I'm old.
So we're gonna put it in our Discord, which there is a Grinders Cast MTG
Nice
Discord.
segue.
Feel free to join it. It is going to be for everyone, available for everyone. Anyone can join. We have a lot of different people in there. It's growing every day. People just like hanging out, talking, chatting, talking about Magic, sharing memes with each other, and you can also talk to the cast if you want. I don't know why, but you can. You know, we're also there, involved for some reason. But if you're interested in supporting us monetarily, there is that option. We do have a Patreon. So you can feel free to jump into our Patreon, help us out in any way. We do it per episode, but I know that there's a way for you to set it so you have a maximum limit. We do have a bunch of different tiers. If you join at least our $5 tier, we send you some signed tokens, or we just send you tokens. Hopefully, we still have some signed ones. We signed a bunch of them. I don't know if we
We can do it. We can do it again soon.
We will do it again.
We'll
We'll sign some more
restock.
tokens. Yep, we'll get that restock in the next time we're all together in an event. We do that. We do have another thing coming down the pipeline. Things are a little backed up right now with the person that I'm commissioning the thing from for a $10 plus tier. But we do appreciate all of that. And if you do join our Patreon, regardless of what level you do get access to our patron only channel in Discord. You have more direct access to Tan and Brad and I, and we always post our deck list before the tournament. So we can definitely do that. You'll have that access to that as well. But that's all from us. This is going to be episode 68 of Grinders Cast MTG. We'll catch everyone next time.
See you later.
Caw!
I hate you.
Brad, are you getting on the show? I mean, are you about to stream right now?
No, I gotta go run some errands, and then I will be back later tonight.
Cool. I'm gonna host somebody else then, because I'm starving and need to go cook and stuff. And I have someone I need to entertain. Jonathan Job is here, so
I'm going to go get Chihuahua. Tell Job I said hi.
I will.
Don't tell Joe he said hi.
You'll have a good night. I really enjoyed tonight's episode. Everybody was awesome and energetic. I think this was actually one of our better episodes recently.
Really? I felt like I was tired.
No, I actually liked our episode a lot. Like, we went super in depth on standard. You know, we talked about doing that a little more.
Yeah, I definitely think we like dug into our topics more than just like here's this. Like rather the quality over quantity. That's
Yeah, it was like less PowerPoint and more like book. You know, like more like here's something and here's why kind of stuff. And like, I mean, we had less to talk about too. Like, we only had like 2 real subjects, so you got to like really dive in. I mean, there's some episodes where like, dude, we need to talk about like 7 things. You know, there's a bunch of stuff we need to get covered. So I liked it. Tonight's episode. Y'all were great. I love you. I'll see you all very soon. All right, I'll see
shout
you.
out to Tim for the cookies.
Yeah, those cookies were dope. Tim, if you make cookies every time at an open, I will start paying you. Rudy, are you going to Syracuse?
Maybe.
Bradley?
Yes, I bought my ticket last night.
Yeah, I'm going to do mine in the next day or two. Are you testing with just your team, Brad?
I'm going to be a storm god.
So you already know. Okay, well, I was about to say, I'm going to test stuff, so. All right.
He is going to be testing with his team, because he's on Team Nova, the best
No,
Team
I'm
Avon?
just I think I'm gonna message Cyru SCG.
Cyber SCG.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, I'll see you guys later. Everybody watching at home, thanks so much. I think we had one thing real quick. Give me a second. Yeah, we had one. Well, I had something that said somebody redid something. Whatever. Anyway, all right. Everybody that watched tonight, thanks so much. We'll be back with another episode of this next week. But follow the channel if you haven't already to make sure you can watch me stream when I do my own personal stuff. So, good night, everybody. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.